Recount what you have learned up to this point. You learned that social science represents the use of scientific methods, whether qualitative or quantitative, to investigate individuals, society, and social processes. Communication research focused on communication processes is a type of social science. You also learned that common sense is often prone to cognitive biases, and that research, whether in natural science or social science, attempts to keep those biases in check. We have established that a research question is a question about a social phenomenon, the answer to which is not already known. In other words, directly available facts about the social phenomenon would not be enough to answer the question. Moreover, you learned about the difference between quantitative and qualitative research, and the structure of a causal hypothesis in quantitative research. In this lecture, we will go a step further and discuss the concept of unit or level of analysis. The units of analysis in a study represent the level of social life on which the research question is focused, such as individuals, groups, towns, or nations. Recount that a research question asks a question about social reality. This question may ask about a relationship. For example, is there a connection between the amount of time students spend studying for COM 400 and their score on the final exam? The question could also be a question of differences. How do older students compare to younger students in regard to their performance in COM 400? Note that in both situations, we are comparing individual students, not entire classrooms. Therefore, in this case, students, that is, individuals, is the unit of analysis. Other units of analysis besides individuals include groups, towns, or nations. We do not fully understand what the study is about until we know what units of analysis are involved in the study. Note also that in your textbook on page 37, it is not very clear whether units of analysis and levels of analysis are the same thing. For now, use them interchangeably so that any time we talk about units of analysis, our conclusions would hold true about levels of analysis as well. Recount the research question. How do people communicate under stress? You could study individual workers at General Motors, individuals in small towns in the Midwest, individuals in high-tech firms in Silicon Valley, individuals in Midwestern states, and so on. In each case, you will be comparing the reactions of the individuals, and therefore the unit of analysis will be the individual. The location of the study is not a unit of analysis. The units of analysis are the workers, not General Motors, the small town's inhabitants, not the small towns, the workers in high-tech firms, not the firms themselves. But suppose you ask a different question. How do high-tech firms communicate with their stockholders under pressure? Now you are asking a question about firms, and you intend to compare firms. To collect the data you need for the comparison, you might ask individuals in the firms to recount their experiences when their firm was underperforming. Nevertheless, you would be doing that in order to be able to compare this firm with that firm. Your study will draw conclusions about the firms themselves, not about the individuals that make them up. In this case, the unit of analysis is the firm, that is, a group of individuals. Let us consider another example. In this example, we will use aggregate data. Aggregate data means that we are collecting data from smaller units, for example individuals, and then calculate some type of collective score, for example the arithmetic mean produced by adding up the data and dividing by the total number of individuals. Suppose you are doing a study to determine whether, in departments that encourage their majors to work with tutors, the average cumulative GPA of graduating majors is higher than in comparable departments which do not use tutors. To do this study, you will need to know the cumulative GPA of all students and average them by departments. Nevertheless, although you will be collecting data from students, you are not interested in comparing students, but departments. Your conclusions will be about departments, not about students. Again, the unit of analysis is the group, namely the department, rather than the individual. Therefore, in order to determine the unit of analysis, identify the purpose of the research or the research question. Ask yourself, what entities are being compared? About what entities do I want to draw conclusions? Interestingly enough, confusion among units of analysis may help to explain stereotypes. Imagine doing research on how much various student associations contribute to charity. You are interested in finding out whether there is a relationship between the type of student association and the amount of charity contributions. Suppose you conclude that Greek associations contribute 10% more to charities than other associations. Can you also conclude that each student in a Greek association contributes more to charity than students not in Greek associations? Actually, you cannot. Consider the following numerical example. The first two columns refer to a Greek association, and the next two columns to some other non-Greek association. On the rows, you see individual student charity contributions for each association. On the aggregate, you could have a few students who, because of their substantial contributions to charity, raise the total level of charity contributions from Greek associations. The existence of a few extremely charitable students does not mean that all students are equally charitable. Why did we draw the wrong conclusion? The error happened because we confused the group level of analysis, student organizations, with the individual level of analysis, students. The logical fallacy, wherein we use findings from a higher level of analysis to draw conclusions about a lower level of analysis, is called the ecological fallacy. Ecological fallacy means making predictions about individuals based on conclusions about groups. For example, suppose that you discovered that San Bernardino has the highest criminal rate in the region. For the reasons explained earlier, this fact does not imply that most San Bernardino inhabitants are criminals. The ecological fallacy is responsible for many false beliefs and stereotypes. Always remember that if the conclusions of your research are about higher level entities, such as groups, you may not apply the same conclusions to the individuals that make up the groups. Please remember to review the main concepts you learned in this lecture